Hi there. In this bonus step, what we're going to be doing is setting up an alternative method for activating some of the traps and other things that you'll be making in this project. Um, and what we're going to be making in this particular step is what's called a pressure plate. So those of you who are familiar with Minecraft are probably already familiar with the concept here. Basically, the idea is we're going to set up a button that you can stand on, and when you stand on it, it'll do something in the world, and then when you step off of it, it'll do something else, right? So what we need to do first is pick which game object or prefab we want to use for our template here for what we want to be our pressure plate. You are welcome to use any of the objects you have in the project. It's up to you what you feel like makes a good pressure plate. I personally like using a smaller version of one of these walls. So if you go to walls, floors, and then you see first floor tiled here, I think if we scale this down, it would look nice as a pressure plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click the R button and scale it down till it's small, something like that, maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. So for starters, what we want to do is we need to set up, obviously, the game object that this thing is contained within. So I'm going to right-click right there on first tile floors, and I'm going to hit Create Empty, and we're going to call this pressure plate, just like that. And then I'm going to move it outside of our first floor tiles there. And then we're actually going to drag first floor tiles onto pressure plate. So we want that to be a child that's in the same location there. Next up, what we want to do is right click on pressure plate, and we're going to hit Create Empty. And we're going to call this Start Position. So this is what the pressure plate script is going to use to tell the pressure plate where it started. So it needs to know, what position it was in when it's not being pressed, so that it can move between that and obviously going down into the ground. Next, we need to select our pressure plate game object and hit Add Component. And we're going to add a box collider. And you will probably notice that it puts it, in the corner here. We want to move that to the center. We also should probably scale this up. So if you look at pressure plate, it says 0.25 because we scaled the pressure plate down and then made it a child. So we're going to set all this back to 1 and then select that first floor tiles and then just set that to 0.25. Just like that. That'll make it so we still have the same size, but now we don't have that scaling issue. And now our box collider is a lot closer to the size we want it to be. We're then going to set the center here in the X to negative 0.5, or actually probably 0.25. Yep, negative 0.25 looks to be about right. Well, actually, maybe we need like 0.3, negative 0.3, 3.5? Okay, there we go. Or negative 0.35 should do it. There we go. And then in the z-axis, we're going to do the same thing, negative 0.35, just like that. And then we're going to set the scale for x and z down to 0.6, something like that. And it looks like we're still off by a little bit. Actually, no, that's perfect, because we just want it to be around, being in the right spot. Let's see. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I do like having it at least close. Let's see, was 0.4 good? Yeah, we'll do negative 0.4 for both of these. Still not quite perfect, but close enough. And again, it doesn't need to be exact. We then want to make sure we set that to is trigger. That's going to be really important, because if it's not a trigger, we're just going to run into that collider and it's not going to actually activate the button. Finally, what we want to do is add component and look for the pressure plate script. We're going to drag the start position into start and the plate into plate. And the last thing that we need to do is assign this to something. So this isn't a required step technically for like your check setup stuff, but if you actually want your pressure plate to do something, you would need to hit the plus button here, and then you would drag an object into here. So I'll do one as an example here. So if I go to prefabs and weapons, I have our dart trap. That's the hard bonus step that you may or may not have done yet. But what I can do is I can drag dart trap, select pressure plate, drag dart trap into this. Again, you get the none object by hitting the plus button, and you can delete extra ones by hitting the minus button. But we do that, and then we select the script that we want to activate. So we have the dart trap script, and then we have fire darts. So now if I step on the pressure plate, it'll tell our dart trap to fire its projectiles. So that's generally how it works. You can use that for anything that we have created in this project, going back to the beginning till now, that is activated in some way. Most things that are activated by triggers, you can instead, like I could go here and disable the trigger, so the trigger will no longer activate it, and it would rely on the pressure plate. So yeah, very usable. You can use it for whatever you want. The last thing you just want to make sure you do is, of course, make a prefab out of this. So I'm going to put mine in the environments prefab folder. I think that's where it makes the most sense. So we'll drag it down here into environment. But yeah, once you've got that done, go ahead, save your scene, do your check setup, and then find something in one of your dungeon levels that can make use of it.